When you went over to the Optic team, and obviously for most of this period, we're talking about the Optic, that was Snappy was the IGL. What was it like in this period? Because again, like you said, like obviously in your life you weren't in the best place, but like this was kind of a weird period in your career. It's funny that you and Magus both had times you were in a team called Optic where like nothing happened in your careers and it could have just ended, but like you luckily both got out of it. So what was this time period like? Because you were like an alright player, but it definitely wasn't your peak.
Well, when I joined the first Optic team, I was living in America with Stanislav and Sam, and we got into a beef, and they turned it into a Danish team instead. And then when we got Snappy and Yuki and Nico, and I think it was me and k0n, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
We didn't have Nico at first. We had k0n and Gade and me.
Oh yes, they swapped Gade and Yuki and
Snape.
North.
Yeah. And that team was actually, I thought it could have been a good team, but we couldn't make it work. Like the puzzle weren't working. I think that k0n B and Snappy had some controversy, and I think that they had some problems, and k0n didn't like the way Snappy called, and Snappy didn't like the way that k0n wanted to mid-round call, and it was we were like working against each other. We were really it wasn't working as a team, and then yeah, it was kind of just a downhill spiral, right? Like losing to worse and worse teams, and probably doing some good stuff sometimes, but still managing to lose to really bad teams in America. And I just think that team should never really have happened, honestly. Like I would rather have played in Denmark, sitting here and playing from home. Like we were in America for not that long, but it wasn't really worth our time, any one of us. That was why we also got MSL later on, and we disbanded the entire team because we knew that it's not gonna work. Like it's not 2016 anymore.
When you say that, that is one of the weird parts of the story, because actually in the Stanislaw thing where he released that tweet long ago where he tried to tell like all his version of the story, I mean, he titled it like The Truth, but whatever. It's just his side of the story. So when he told all his side, he actually mentioned that at one point in time, k0nb like wanted to be the IGL for a week and did it, and then like didn't like it after that. What? So should k0nb have just tried being a real in-game leader if he wanted this much control? Did he just always want to be the guy who had input or something? Like what would you say about that mess?
I think if k0nb wanted to have, like, he had a lot of stuff to say about the game after the games. Like if we played a match, then he would be the one that talked the most after the game, like saying that we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that. And then I think if you're that type of guy, then you should take the control in the game and tell us what to do if you have a better idea of how we're supposed to play, instead of just being smart after the game, because that I find that really annoying. Like if people are smart after a match, then why don't you say anything in the game? Like it doesn't really make sense to me. And I think that he should have taken the role, but he didn't like the role because he weren't like good individually when he had it. He had to focus on many things in the game, and he couldn't take that in. I don't even think he was in-game meeting for a week. I think it was more 2 days or 3 days. And then he kind of said, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that was when everything kind of was like, yeah. And then Stanislaw didn't want to do it, and Amapet was like, yeah, you should do it, and I should do it. And it was just thrown around. It wasn't like a proper team like MSL was. Like MSL didn't put this together like a football team, you know, with strikers and stuff like that. It was more like a scrambled egg, you know. No one could really do anything.
Sure. When you yourself were in this team, it's one of the things I mentioned in my article about it, because this was actually the time when it was the end of the Optic era. Is if we talk about before, when you were in the MSL system, where it's like MSL basically was like the most selfless bait ever. He would just run out, and the idea was he was making your kills easier, so that then if you're the best player, you win the round. It's actually a very clever way to play the game, but obviously there's not a lot of players who are going to do that. In this team, there was nothing like that. In fact, sometimes you were just the hard entry at times. You were just a guy running on your own. So like, where something happened with your roles, it was implied to me you wanted to play this game, the game this way or something.
No, not really. I wanted to do the old method of him going first, but he when he joined, I think he was AWPing as well. We threw Yuki out because MSL wanted to AWP, and he can't really jump first and jump corners when he was AWPing, because k0nb was AWPing back in the day in 2016 in Dignitas.
Sure.
And we didn't really AWP that much as we did in the Optic time. Like in Dignitas, we didn't AWP T side, we only AWP CT sides. And in the Optic team, where MSL was AWPing almost every single round, every single time we could afford one, he was AWPing, because that was the one shot, one kill weapon. You know, that was what he liked the most. And I think that kind of destroyed our team. I think if Yuki was AWPing and MSL was doing his in-game role with the AK, I think it would have been a different lineup, a different team. Like we would have probably made the team way better than what it was.
I know the problem if you talk about MSL ARPing is he can just say, which is a pretty cool line, like, I did win an MVP over device at a fucking massive tournament ARPing. Like, listen, that's not a bad counter argument, MSL, but the problem is, aside from that one tournament, it doesn't look that great. Like, I'll say this, he is better than I thought he would be. Like, he is like a smart player, he can use it. So, but the problem is, like, to have your primary ARPer be a player like that, I can't see how it can work. What were your thoughts on that overall?
I had a lot of thoughts, but I didn't say them because I like the guy. But I don't think he should have picked up the ARP. I still don't think that he should be an ARP. I think he should try to go back to M4. I think it has been a waste some rounds to give him an ARP, and he didn't really do anything with it, in my opinion. And he didn't really take the map control that was needed. He of course tried to do it, but he almost got killed every time if they countered, because he isn't the flashiest player of all time, but he can ARP, but he's not the quickest ARPer. Like, if he meets a Kenyas, he's gonna get out-ARPed every single time. And I don't think that's good for a team if they have a worse ARPer than their opponents, right? So I think that we should have kept someone else ARPing, and I think k0nb could even have ARPed, and I think that would have been better.
This brings me to one thing that, listen, I'm an MSL fan as well, mate, but I also understand that part of actually, by the way, knowing people is you have to know their flaws as well. You have to know where they have like certain aspects that mess them up sometimes. And the biggest character flaw of MSL in his career generally, because he's a pretty cool guy, is just he's a very stubborn person, you know. Now, that I've always said that probably works with some of the tactics. I'm sure that means like as an IGL, for example, if you call a round and it is the right round, but then your team fuck it up, sometimes you have to call it again. You don't just go, well, it failed, so don't do it. Like, you have to know when it's like, when I stick with something, it's going to work. The problem is, though, this ARPing thing ties into something else, which is, if you ever talked to MSL and you basically said to him kind of the harsh truth, which is like, listen, mate, you're one of those players who's like a low fragger, but you're a really good IGL. So just, you know, as long as you get the right players in your team and you're just the IGL, it's no problem. You can do it. Basically, he's one of those guys where it's like, whoa. Low fragger. Like, he secretly believes he has like good aim or something, mate. Like can you explain, like, what is this side of MSL like? Because he does have that stubborn element to him, right? Where if he's got something in his mind, you can't convince him otherwise.
I think it's more like he wants to be a good player. He wants to have good. He wants to look good out. Like, he can also have a bad game and still have been a good ARPer, right? But when you see people ARPing well, they always get a lot of kills, and I think that his impact isn't that good in North as well, like when he's playing now. And I think that he's just a stubborn person, and when he said that he wanted to ARP, like, you couldn't change his mind, then you would have need to throw him out of the team. I don't think that North is going to change his mind now or letting someone else ARP. I think that he thinks he's an ARPer now, but I don't think he's an ARPer. I think he's an in-game leader that chose to play ARP because he had a rough time with M4 in a short period. Like, everybody had a rough time with a gun, like, and then you try to change. But I think if he changed back, he would make space for a better ARPer, and I think that would make that team way better.